if I start telling people about hell, I might just scare them off. Where are you going to scare them off to? Hell number 2? Or are you just going to sit there and let them burn?
In your experience researching this sort of thing, is it only confined to quote-unquote Satanism? Or have you seen it cross over into stuff like Kabbalah or anything else?
Well, and I can't speak for Tom here, but you'll find when you study the mystery schools, it turns into a lot of things. I can't, every branch of the occult somehow, in my opinion, ties into one of the old mystery school religions one way or the other. And
right.
This is why.
I love that answer. I love that answer.
With masonry or anything else, what you find is that you have a lot of stupid people involved in the public aspect. And by stupid, I don't necessarily mean, maybe I should say ignorant. There are a lot of people that seek some of these, more friendly, fellowships like Masonry or the Shriners or, the Scottish Rite or the York Rite or whatever. The Blue Lodge, the blue degrees, so to speak, your first, second, and third degree in those primary lodges. And they seek the fellowship aspect of it, right? And so most of them don't understand the esoteric architecture that goes in, the deeper meanings, the hidden truths that the mystery school was, built around to shroud. You have people there that are
the double meanings of a lot of the things that go on in the lodge.
Exactly, and a lot of people involved now. They don't care, and the same can kind of be said of some of the covens and stuff. When you talk about generational Satanism, there are people that were born into it. They don't necessarily care as much about it as other people. They don't necessarily care about the purity of the knowledge that they're trying to sustain or perpetuate. They're a part of it, or some people get involved unknowingly because of the liberal sexuality. There's an unhindered sexuality that is very enticing to some people because they enjoy that. Now they're part of a group of people that can shed the inhibitions and they can partake very hedonistically in certain things. Drug use is a big, that's how the aspects that aren't generational, where people aren't born into it, where people can join, you'll find that there are these things that they use to entice them, to get them involved. But inevitably, at the core of all of these, you do have some people, though, that are trying to they're trying to perpetuate, and I guess I'm looking for the word. I guess I lost the word for it, but they're keeping it alive. And what I've come to the realization of, I'm a firm believer at this point that man himself was not capable of continuing the traditions of the mystery schools and keeping it together all of these years. There's always a supernatural component pushing this mystery Babylon in whatever form it was. I remember I was very interested when the Bloods and the Crips in California started spraying graffiti that involved the all-seeing eye and other occultic symbols. And what was interesting to me, you're not going to convince me for a second that a bunch of gangbangers are all of a sudden interested in the mystery schools. So the question is, who's teaching them these things? They don't understand the real meaning behind what they're putting on these buildings. So when you start to look at the people that have gotten involved, maybe behind the scenes, showing them things, there's ultimately it boils down to a spiritual component where an older knowledge is being perpetuated spiritually. Even a man by the name of Mark Booth used to write about how the perpetuation of the secret societies that we know of today were being sustained and were being propagated by controlled communication with spirits. And so, in my opinion, regardless of the flavor of the occult or, even the types of activity that you can get involved with in, gang activity that starts to utilize some of these symbols and signs, there's always a spiritual component that's hiding behind the scenes that's pushing this knowledge on a people, whether it's in the forms of dreams, whether it's in the forms, it comes in many forms. Dreams and visions and things like that can happen to a lot of people, especially, I'm kind of going down a tangent. I mean, I see a lot of people that are really starting to take to DMT these days. There are a lot of people that are starting to take to psilocybin mushrooms, and it seems like hallucinogenics are coming back because we're telling people that you can have these amazing experiences where you can reach you can feel a sense of love and oneness with the universe. It's very new agey, but that you can work through your own trauma through these psychoactive drugs. But what's interesting to me is there are a lot of people that I've counseled and myself that have done ayahuasca or forms of DMT that are able to bypass the blood-brain barrier that did not come back from those trips alone. Depending on the way in which you did DMT, you could have a 10-minute trip, you could have a 2-hour trip. If you're doing peyote, you're going to have a 2-hour trip. But what's interesting is sometimes they come back with knowledge that is very much in line with the foundational teachings of the mystery schools, but they don't know that. And so the question is, where did they get that? And I think one of the best examples that I've seen in the modern day of this knowledge of the occult and the mystery schools and mystery Babylon being perpetuated somehow by communication with spirits was in the story of a woman named Tracy Twyman. She wrote a book called Clock Shaving. This is a woman who's not a Christian to my knowledge. At least when I studied her work, she was definitely not a Christian. So I don't necessarily recommend people go and research her work, but for the sake of this conversation, she was very interested in the science of the Ouija board. And what she did was she actually designed a Ouija board that was more efficient and allowed for faster communication. It's more of a circular Ouija board that had some other symbols on it that allowed for faster communication with the spirit. And slowly but surely, as she honed her Ouija board skills, she ended up coming into communion with a spirit that referred to itself as the Baphomet. Most people read it as Baphomet. I'm not saying it was Baphomet, but it identified as Baphomet. And she began receiving instructions, long story short, that she began to carry out for the spirit that she was communing with. And over the course of a year or two of constantly working on this relationship with this familiar spirit through her Ouija board, she was developing a group that was connected that she realized had the foundations of an old mystery school secret society. And for her, a light bulb went off that this is how the mystery schools and the occult in general has stayed intact for more than 5,000 years. Because it's not people passing down tradition. It's not people that just pick up an old book, get it. You have the direct involvement and interaction of powers and principalities that are perpetuating it and keeping it alive.
Yes, I agree.
I agree. You said a lot right there. You said so much right there that we could go on just on that for a long time. One, you talk about the blood in the crypts, and you would see the imagery that they produce, the all-seeing eye, and some of the other things that they do. Even we'll go to some of the gang signs, the hand signs. In the Bible it says, by their fruits you shall know them. And these guys are into killing, murder, the drug use. And that's one aspect. The other aspect of it, I'll come back to rap music, but even when you go further now, let's go to the shamans. Let's look at the shamans and what they teach people. They're teaching people to have out-of-body experience and some of the other things that go along with that. And this is what is actually taught in some forms of rap music. They're telling you that you need to open your third eye, New Age.
Yeah.
But like you said, it all goes right back to the mystery religion, mystery Bible.
If you like our videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our frequent updates.